with your English. In this lesson, we will compare two advanced English tenses, the present perfect continuous tense and the past perfect continuous tense. So you will learn the difference between saying, I've been working, or I had been working. Now this lesson is part of a series of lessons and classes that help you master the English verb tenses. These are all created by Invade so that you can become really comfortable using English and move your English forward step by step. Now I do have individual classes on each of these tenses, so perhaps you have watched those and maybe you haven't. So either way, if you've watched them, then great. You can continue to this class, and if you haven't watched them, that's perfectly fine too. Watch this lesson, and then you can go back and you can learn those or review those in greater detail. Okay? So either way, it's great. Shall we begin? Let's go. All right. So what do we see about these two tenses? First, they're similar in some ways. For example, both of them have the word continuous in them, which means they're talking about some action that continues. Okay? And they're both talking about two different times, but in different ways. The present perfect continuous links the past and the present. Okay? Got that? The past perfect continuous links the past and the past. All right? I'm going to show you an example in a minute, so you'll get it, but first let's understand a little bit of the theory. The present perfect continuous talks about something that started in the past, and it continues in the present. The past perfect continuous talks about something that started in the past and continued in the past. See that? Here we have past and present. Here we have past and past. Let's look at a timeline now and understand exactly what we're talking about here. So this is our timeline. This is the present or now. Okay? Everything before this is the past. Everything after this is the future. But right now we're interested in this part. So if I say, for example, I have been working I have been working hard all day. So I am tired. What does that mean? I started working in the past and I'm still working now. So I have been working hard all day. I started working in the past and I'm still working now and therefore what I am tired now. Okay? Let's look at the other side. Now in this timeline again, this is the present. That's the future and this is the past. But now whatever we're going to say, it doesn't touch the present. It talks only about two actions in the past. For example, I had been working hard all day, so I was tired. Now I'm telling you that at some point in the past, doesn't matter when, maybe at last night, maybe yesterday, maybe last week, maybe last year, doesn't matter. But I had been working hard all day at that time, from this time to this time. And so I was tired. Okay? So it's just talking about two things that happened in the past, and therefore the result was in the past. This talks about something which happened in the past, and the result is now. So this continued, and that continued, but this continued from the past into the present, and this continued from a point in the past to another point in the past, but it doesn't touch the present. We're going to understand exactly a little bit more as we look through more examples. Now, let's look at the structure of these two different continuous tenses, and remember both of them can also be called the progressive tenses. So this could also be called present, perfect, progressive, and this one can also be called past, perfect, progressive. These are just two names for the same tenses. So, let's look at the structure of the first one. For present, perfect, continuous, we have subject plus have been or has been plus the verb plus ing. For example, I have been working. You can repeat it after me if you like. It helps. It helps you to get used to it. You have been working. We have been working. They have been working. Then we have a change. He has been working. She has been working. It has been working. That's the basic structure. We're using the subject plus have been, or has been plus. The verb in this case, work plus ing. That's for positive sentences. Let's look at a negative example, negative sentence. He has not been working. Basically, we're just putting not. I have not been working. He has not been working. We're just adding not. And how do we form the question? We change the order. Have you been working? Have they been working? Has he been working? Has she been working? Okay, that's basically it. You need to be able to form the positive sentence, the negative sentence, and the question. That's present perfect continuous. Now, let's look at our other friend, past perfect continuous. This is a little bit easier because there's no change. For all of the subjects, you have subject plus had been plus the verb plus ing. It's a little bit easier. It would sound like this. Say it after me. I had been working. You had been working. We had been working. They had been working. He had been working. She had been working. And it had been working. Good. That's the positive. Now, the negative sentence. He had not been working. Same thing. We're putting not in here. Here we see it. And she had not been working. They had not been working. And how do we form the question? Same thing. We change the order. Instead of saying, he had, we say, had he been working? Had they been working? All right. So we're changing the order there. Now, what's important is that for all of these, we can use contractions. We can use shortened forms. I'm not going to go into detail on those in this lesson. But also here, instead of saying I have been working, I could say I've been working. Or he's been working. Here I could say, we've been working. She'd been working. Okay. But again, as I said, I have individual lessons on each of these tenses, which you can watch in case you want the full class on each of these tenses. All right. But now I think by this lesson itself, you will already have understood so much. So let's do some practice. Now, let's do some practice with both of these tenses. And I'm sure that after this, you're just going to understand so much better exactly how to use each of them. So let's get started. Now, in each case, we have two sentences. Okay. For one of them, we need present perfect continuous. And in one of them, we need past perfect continuous. So, how do you decide? Remember, present perfect continuous is going to connect the past event to something in the present. And past perfect continuous connects the past and the past. All right. So, keep that in mind as you work through these with me. So, let's read number 1. I blank wait for the food. So, I am hungry. What do you think that will be? Okay. Let's read number 2, and it might help you. Number 2 says, I blank wait for the food. So, I was hungry. Now, let's go back to number 1. Which tense do we need present perfect continuous? Or past perfect continuous? Let's read number 1 again. I blank wait for the food. So, I am hungry. Okay. So, I am hungry is what? The present. So, we want to connect the past to the present. So, we use which one? The present perfect continuous. So, this form will be I have been waiting for the food. I have been waiting for the food. So, I am hungry right now. Now, the other one I wait for. The food, so I was hungry. Yesterday, when I was in the restaurant yesterday, not today. So this one will be what? Not I have been waiting, but past. Perfect continuous. I had been waiting. I had been waiting for the food, so I was hungry. Okay. See the difference? In the first one I am hungry. I'm in the restaurant now. I've been waiting and waiting. And I am hungry. That's present perfect continuous. But this one I'm telling you about. Something that happened before, maybe yesterday, maybe last week. And I tell you how I had been waiting for the food for so long, and I was so hungry. Okay. See the difference? You've got it, and you'll get it as we work through these pairs of sentences. You'll see the difference. Okay. Number 3. He blank fly all night, so he was exhausted. Number 4 says he blank fly all night, so he is exhausted. So, which one goes where? Here the result is in the this is in the past, and this is in the past. So which tense connects the past and the past? The past perfect continuous. So what form do we need here? He had been flying all night, so he was exhausted. Maybe yesterday, maybe last week, whenever. But this one he fly all night, so he is exhausted. So this connects the past and the present because he is exhausted now. We need present perfect continuous. He has been flying all night, so he is exhausted. And what does exhausted mean? Exhausted just means very tired. Okay. Say it after me. I'm exhausted. Okay. I hope you're not. I hope you're full of energy. Okay. But this guy is exhausted. All right. Now, let's look at number 5 and 6. Now we're going to do the same thing. Choose one of those tenses, but we'll take it one step higher. We're going to make it a negative sentence. Okay. Let's look at the example. She attend the meetings, so she didn't understand the project. Make this part negative. Okay. Number 6. Same thing. She blank attend the meetings, so she doesn't understand the project. Okay. Which one has the result in the present and which one has the result in the past? Here we said, so she didn't understand the project. Result in the past. So she doesn't understand the project. Result in the present. So what do we need here and make this attend negative? She hadn't, right? Had not been attending. Right. She had not been attending or she hadn't been attending the meetings, so she didn't understand the project. Okay. Maybe that was last week. Talking about what happened earlier. And here she hasn't been attending the meetings, so she doesn't understand the project. Okay. So this is past to present. This is past to past. Are you with me? Good. I hope with these sentences you can see the difference and why. Sometimes we need the present perfect continuous. And sometimes we need the past perfect continuous. Let's do a few more, so you really get it. Moving on now. Let's make number 7 and number 8 also negative. Number 7. He blank study, so he is not ready for the exam, or he blank study, so he was not ready for the exam. Which one connects to the present and which one connects to the past? So he is not ready. He was not ready. So this is past and present. This should be past and past. How do we do that? So he has not been studying. So he is not ready for the exam. Now in the past. He had not been studying, so he was not ready for the exam. Okay. Got that? Very good. And to conclude, let's do 2 positive sentences again. In a slightly different way. This week present this. Week I blank go to the gym every day, or last week. I blank go to the gym every day. So now your connection is here. This week present, last week past. So what would you put here? This week I've been really good, and whatever I've been doing I have been going to the gym every day. Excellent. Last week was also good. Last week what will it be? Had been going to the gym every day. Okay. So again you will know, because of what are you connecting it to, right? Are you connecting? a past event to the present or a past action that continued to the past. So those are the points you need to keep in mind when you're trying to figure out which tense to use. And I hope that this exercise of contrasting the two different sentences
helped you to see that.
Okay. Now, of course, you could make questions from it, right? Oh, you could say, have you been going to the gym every day this week? Or, last week, really had you been going to the gym every day? Okay. So you could also, of course, ask questions. Now, if you'd like to move forward, which I'm sure you'd like to do, how do we do that? You can do it in two ways. One, if you'd like a little more review, and you feel like I know these sentences, but I need to know them much better, much more in detail. Then go back. Watch the individual lessons on the present perfect continuous and the past perfect continuous. I have separate lessons on those. If you feel no, I think I'm good. I'm ready to move forward. Then go forward. The next tense in our series is the future perfect. So go on to watch that one. And if you'd like to go forward or backward but do a little more practice on this comparison, then go to Ingrid where you can do a quiz, a comparison quiz on this. Okay. But one way or the other, feel very proud of yourself. These are advanced tenses. They are challenging, but you can get them. And I hope you understood them a little bit better than when you started to watch this video. All right. All the best with your English.
Hi, I'm Rebecca.
In this class, we will learn all about the future perfect tense. Now, this class is part of a series created by Ingrid to help you master all of the English verb
Tenses step by step.
Now, the future perfect tense is an advanced tense, and it will allow you to speak about the future in a really interesting way that may or may not exist in your own language. So, shall we begin? Let's get started. So we can use the future perfect tense in two ways. We use it to talk about an action that will be completed before a specific time in the future, or before another action in the future. So let me explain again. It's an action that will be finished or completed before a specific time in the future, or a specific other action in the future. Okay, let's look at an example. Then you'll understand a little bit better, and as we go through the lesson, you'll understand more and more. All right, so let's look at this timeline. Let's pretend that I'm a university student, and this is where I am right now. Okay, this is the present in time, and I'm thinking ahead, and so I'm saying, okay, 6 months from now I will finish university, but when I think ahead, I say therefore, a year from now, or next year, at this time what things will already be over. Next year, at this time I will have finished university. I will have completed all my classes. I will have passed all my exams and all of those things. So what we're doing is we're using the future perfect to explain all the things that will already be finished before a point in the future. Okay. And as we go along, you'll understand more and more. Let's just look very quickly at the structure. So that's really easy. You just take the subject, I, you, we, they, he, she, it, which you know very well. You add these two words for every subject. You don't have to change anything. Just say, for example, I will have, and then we take the verb, a regular verb.
You can use the past
participle or the past participle often. Irregular verb doesn't matter. Again, I'll explain that. So you could say, I will have finished university. I will have completed my courses. I will have attended my classes, and so on.
Okay.
That's the basic overview. Now, let's look at when to use the future perfect tense, so you can understand a little more clearly. So we use it. Remember to describe an action that will be completed before a specific time in the future. For example, by next July, they will have moved to the States. They will have started new jobs, and they will have bought a home. So, where is the future perfect here? In 3 places. Will have moved, will have started, and will have bought, right? By this time in the future, by next July, these 3 things will have happened already. Okay, that means these things will have happened before. They will have moved. They will have started new jobs, and they will have bought a home before next July. Okay, all right. We can also use it to talk about a completed action that happens before another action in the future. I know it all sounds a little bit tricky, but it's not. It's really pretty easy to understand. So, let's look at the example. Before you arrive, we will have eaten dinner, and the kids will have gone to bed. All right? So before you arrive, certain things will already have happened. For that, we're using that future perfect tense. All of this is happening in the future. You're going to arrive in the future, and these things that I'm going to describe are going to happen in the future. Everything is in the future, but in that future, what's summer?
Okay.
These are some common words. We will have eaten dinner, and the kids will have gone to bed. Will have eaten. Will have gone. Okay. So here, we're linking it to another action in the future. Here, we linked it to another time in the future. Okay. Next, we use it with certain expressions. There are certain common expressions that you'll often find when using this tense or when you're reading this tense. Words like before. All right? We saw that. Before you arrive, or by the time you arrive, by the time I finish university. Okay? Or by 9 o'clock. All right? By Monday. By next summer. Okay? These are some common words and expressions that you can use when you're using the future perfect tense. Now, let's look at the structure of the future perfect tense. So, I've divided the board into 3 sections for positive sentences, negative sentences, and 4 questions. So, let's go through them step by step. So, with a positive sentence, we're basically going to follow this structure. We take the subject, which is any one of these words or any other word which is functioning as a subject. We add will have always, doesn't matter which subject. And then you have to add the past participle of the verb. What does that mean? It depends if we're talking about a regular verb or an irregular verb. They change, the past participles are different. For a regular verb, it's simply the same past tense form that you've always used. All right? Like work, work, brush, brush, dance, dance. Okay? That's the past participle form. It's the same as the simple past tense. Now, with the irregular verbs, you have to learn that third form. Okay? So, for example, leave, left, left. I see, I saw, I have seen, right?
Seen.
So that third form is what we need to use. And that is the past participle of the irregular verb. All right? Now, when you study the verbs, you will understand exactly what is that irregular form. And there's always a list of irregular verbs in most grammar books. Okay? All right. So, let's look at the positive sentence now. So you would say, I will have arrived. Let's say 24 hours from now, I will have arrived in Tokyo. Okay? You will have arrived. We will have arrived. You can repeat it after me. They will have arrived. He will have arrived. She will have arrived. It will have arrived. For example, the delivery, the parcel. Okay? The email, etc. Okay? That's with the regular verb. Let's continue with the regular verb first. Okay? To make it negative, it's really easy. All we're doing is we're just adding not. Okay? I will not have arrived by that time. You will not have arrived. We will not have arrived. They will not have arrived. He will not have arrived. She will not have arrived.
And it will not have arrived.
Okay? So that's really easy. Now, let's look at the question. With the question, it would be, will you have arrived? So here it gets a little bit separated, right? So you have the will first, then you have your subject, and then have plus the verb, the past participle. So, will you have arrived by 8 o'clock? Will they have arrived home by then? Okay. Will she have arrived tomorrow? Okay. By tomorrow. That's how the question would be with the regular verb. With the irregular verb, basically, you just need that third form of the path, which is the past participle. And then you have followed the same structure, right?
You will have left by that time.
They will have left. Left is the third form of the verb to leave. Okay? And if you want to make it negative, you would say they will not have left. Again, we're just adding the not. All right? To make it negative, there is a contraction which I will show you soon. But for now, this is the basic structure. All right? And then again, the same thing if you're asking a question with the regular or irregular verb, doesn't matter. You're following the same structure. So will they have left by that time? Will she have left? Okay? That's basically it. Sometimes when you're asking a question, you might want to put in a phrase, a kind of like a question, word or a phrase like, by what time will they have arrived? So I could write that. Yeah, I could say, by what time? And then I'll have to not make it capital, but just write with a small letter. Okay? Continue, because I'm continuing it. By what time will they have arrived? Okay? That's it. And if you've understood this, you've understood the structure of this tense. And basically, just remember the will have, and that's the key. Now, let's look at how we form contractions with the future perfect tense. So, let's look at this sentence. I will have moved. That's a sentence in the future perfect tense.
But very often
in formal English, in conversational English, we use contractions or shortened forms. So, let's see how to do that. So instead of saying, I will, we can say, I'll. Say it after me.
I'll.
Okay? It's a little bit tricky sometimes to get that L sound out, but you can. But make sure you are saying the L sound if you want to use the contraction, because otherwise it will sound like I have moved, and that's different. Okay? So, how did we get to this? We basically canceled this part here and added an apostrophe, and then we joined these two words. And so it became I'll. Say it after me. I'll have moved. You'll have moved. Let's just say this part. Okay?
Because this is the part we
want to focus on. Later you can say it by itself or in a sentence. We'll.
They'll.
He'll.
She'll.
Let's say a couple of sentences. They'll have moved. She'll have moved. Okay? So you need to hear that L part before you go on. So that's for the positive sentence. Now, with the negative sentence, it's going to be a little bit different. So what happens? The normal negative sentence is, I will not have moved, right? But when we contract, it's not logical. It doesn't follow the normal rules. We just have to use another word. There's a kind of a linguistic history why this happens, but it doesn't matter for you. For you, unless you're really, really interested, you can look it up. But for now, just learn this form. And so instead of saying, I will not have moved, you just say, I won't. Instead of will not, we say, won't. Say it after me. I won't have moved. You won't. We won't. They won't. He won't have moved. She won't have moved by then. Okay? So that's basically it. That's how we form the contractions in the future perfect tense. Now let's look at some of the spelling changes we need to make when using the future perfect tense. So the changes will be in the verbs, right? Either you're going to use a regular verb or an irregular verb. The first part of the structure is more or less the same. You use the subject, then you use will have. And then you have to use the past participle. So that's what we're going to look at, the past participle of regular verbs and of irregular verbs. So with regular verbs, it's just the regular past simple form. So let's look at some patterns of spelling changes that you need to make. With most verbs, all you have to do to form that past participle or past simple form is add addition, right? That's all we're doing. We're adding addition. Just like here, work becomes worked. Check becomes checked. So most verbs, we just add an ed. With some verbs, however, we need to make other changes. If the verb already ends with an E, then we don't need to add addition.
We just add D.
For example, live becomes lived. Change becomes changed. All right? So all we added there was just D. Next, let's look at another pattern. If you have a verb that ends a verb, actually that ends with a Y, and before the Y, you have a consonant, which means any letter which is not a vowel. A vowel is a-i-o-u, but if you have a Y, and before the Y, you have a consonant like here, try, right? It ends with Y, and before it is a consonant. Then what we do is we cancel the Y and add iud. So try becomes tried. Study becomes studied, right? Same thing. I will have tried my best. I will have studied for the exam, right? Like that. And the last pattern that we can kind of see, or one of the main patterns, is for verbs that end with what's called a CVC pattern. So C stands for consonant and V stands for vowel. So we look at the verb from the end. Let's look at this one. Starts with a C at the end, then we have a vowel and then another C for consonant, right?
That's it.
So when you see a verb like that, when we look at it from the end and it has this pattern, then you double the last letter. So ship becomes shipped. They will have shipped your order, right? We see that here. Or hug. To hug means to embrace, like to embrace a child or embrace somebody that you love is to hug. So this also has a CVC pattern. So the last letter gets doubled. Hug, hugged. All right, there you go.
So these are some
of the main changes with the regular verbs. Now with the irregular verbs, that's the third form. And you pretty much have to learn them, and you probably know lots of them already because you've heard them, you've read them, and you may know many more than you actually realize. But these are just some of them that I've given to you, a few of the most common. For example, go becomes gone in the third form. All right? We're talking about that third form, the past participle, that we need to use with the future perfect tense. I will have gone. Do becomes done. He will have done his homework. Give becomes given. They will have given. Take becomes taken. We will have taken. Write becomes written. She will have written the report. Okay? And these are just a few of them. There are many more. You can find a long list of them in any good grammar book or online. Now, let's practice what we've been learning. So we're going to take some positive sentences, some negative ones, and one question, and we're going to change them all into the future perfect tense. All right, number 1. By the time he gets to the airport, the flight. We want you to use the verb arrive. So, how can you express that in the future perfect? By the time he gets to the airport, the flight? Yes. Will have. And then arrive is a regular verb. So it becomes arrived. Okay? Will have arrived.
Good.
Let's look at number 2. Next August, we, using the verb be. We, something, married for 25 years. What would that one be? Next August, we, yes, will have. And what's the form of be that we have to use here? That's an irregular verb. What's the third form? Will have been married for 25 years. Okay? Will have been, will have arrived. These are all future perfect tense. Okay. Number 3. By 3 o'clock, he blanks his presentation. And we want to use the verb give. So what would that be? By 3 o'clock, he will have give. Becomes what? Given. Okay? This is another irregular verb. The 3 forms of that are give, gave, given. And here we need that third form. All right. Number 4. By 9 p.m., we blank dinner. Now, the verb you're going to use is have. Don't let that confuse you. So, what do we say? We will have. What's your verb? The verb you have to use.
This you have to say anyway, right?
Will have. Now, you have to take the verb just like you took. Give and made it given. You take have and made it make it what? We will have had dinner. Yes, we have this kind of construction in English. We will have had dinner.
Why?
Because the expression here is to have dinner. So, that's your verb. Just like here, the expression was to give a presentation. All right? Or here to be married. So, whatever that verb is, you use the third form of that. Okay? All right. Very good. Now, let's make some sentences negative. I blank work by 8 p.m. The verb is finished, but now we're going to make it negative.
So what will that be?
I will not have finished, right? Because finished becomes finished, right? I will not have finished work by 8 p.m. Okay. Or, if we wanted to contract it, what could we say? I won't have finished work by 8 p.m. Okay? Very nice. Number 6. They blank their homework. What does that become? They will not have. What does do become? It's an irregular verb, and the third form is they will not have done their homework. All right? Very nice. Now, for the last one, let's make a question.
So blank he by then. How
do we start the question? Which word first? The word will he have? What's the form of the verb we need here? It's an irregular verb. Will he have eaten by then? Okay? All right. So, how did you do on those? Do you feel good? You're getting the hang of it? You're getting used to it? That's the way. Practice is always the best way to perfect something. Now, let's look at some common mistakes that are made when using the future perfect tense. So sometimes the mistake is in the verb form for regular verbs. Let's look at an example, and then you can help me to fix it. By Monday, he will have started his new job. So, where's the mistake?
The mistake is in the
verb itself in the regular verb. What should it be? By Monday, he will have not start but started. Right? We have to change it to that form. He will have started his new job.
So sometimes that
regular verb isn't changed properly. So make sure that when you're writing it and using it, you do change it. Sometimes the mistake is in the verb form for an irregular verb. For example, in the next few years, they will have teach thousands of children. So, again, where's the mistake in the verb form itself? This is an irregular verb. Let's go through it again. In the next few years, They will have something, thousands of children. So, what's the third form of teach? It is taught. T-U-G-H-T. They will have taught thousands of children. Okay?
Good.
Spelling. Sometimes the mistakes are in spelling. We looked at some of those earlier. For example, by next month, we will have planned the conference. That's what the
person wanted to write.
But they made a little mistake in the spelling. Where's the mistake? Can you find it? The mistake is actually in the spelling of the verb. Let's look carefully by next month. We will have that's wrong.
Look.
The verb is planned. There's CVC. It should be planned.
Right?
We needed. In this case, we needed to double the last letter. And sometimes the mistake is in the question form. Let's look at what this student wrote. You will have finished chopping by that time?
No.
If somebody said that, will I understand them?
Yes.
I will understand them. But is it correct?
No.
It's not correct. And if you write that in a test or an exam or an email, it doesn't sound very good. It's not correct. So, how could we fix it? It's really easy. Remember the form for the question? How will it start? It will start like this. Instead of you will, which is like a sentence, we change the order. And we write, will you have finished chopping by that time? Okay. Remember, questions start with will you? Will they? Will we? Will ye?
Right?
That's the way we start the questions. Now, these are just a few examples that I gave you, but they're just to show you the kind of mistakes that are possible. So, be careful not to make mistakes with the verb form for regular verbs or irregular verbs, the spelling of the verbs, and especially with the questions. So now, let's review. We have learned how to use the future perfect tense and when to use it. And you know how to use it when you can do three things: make a positive sentence, a negative sentence, and a question such as we have on the board. So, let's have a look at them. He will have retired. Here we have a regular verb. To retire means to stop working because you reach a certain age. So we could say, by next year, he will have retired. Or, by next year, he will not have retired. Or, we could ask a question. Will he have retired by next year? Okay. When you can move quickly between those sentences, you've got it. Let's take an example with an irregular verb. She will have spoken to John by next week, or she will not have spoken to John by next week. Or, will she have spoken to John by next week?
All right.
Again, here we had the irregular verb speak, which became spoken. So yes, you have to learn those as you go along. But I think you've done an amazing job. You stuck with me till the end, and I know that you're serious, and I'm sure you've mastered a lot of this already. So what you can do now is write some sentences of your own. Practice saying some sentences of your own to talk about your life, to talk about people in your life. What will you have achieved by next year? What will you have done by next year? What will you have completed by next year? Write out some sentences. Write out some plans. Write out your vision for the future.
Okay.
And you can use this tense and practice it. Then when you're ready and you feel you're comfortable with this tense, move on to our next class, which is on the future perfect continuous tense, which is also called the future perfect progressive tense.
All right.
And if you'd like to do a little more practice on this, you can always do a quiz at Invid. So, thanks very much for watching, and I wish you the very best with your English. Welcome to this class on the future perfect continuous tense. This is one of the most advanced tenses in the English language. So, first of all, congratulations on reaching this level. where you're watching this lesson. It's quite amazing. Feel good. Now, this class is part of a series on English tenses that's created for you by Invit. But what is the future perfect continuous tense anyway? First of all, it's also called the future perfect progressive tense. But what is it? When do we use it? How do we use it?
Why do we need to say by that time?
I will have been working? Would you like to find out? Let's get started. So first of all, we know from the name itself that this tense has something to do with the future, and it has something to do with something continuing, right? Future and continuing. Let's understand what we mean by that. So we use this tense to say that something and action will have been going on for a certain period of time. We want to say how long something will have been going on at a particular time in the future or before a particular event in the future. Got that? I'll say it again. We want to understand how long something will have been going on before a particular time or event in the future. All right? Let's look at an example so you can understand more clearly. So this is our timeline. This is now, okay, the present. That side is the future, and this side is the past. So let's say that I'm imagining what I'm here now, right? It's July. Let's say it's July, and I'm imagining what my life will be like next year in July. So I could use this tense to say something like this. By next July, let's suppose you started working here, okay, in July. So we could say by next July, I will have been working here for 1 year. All right? You started your job in this July, and we're talking about what it will be like next July, and you could say by next July, I will have been working here for 1 year, okay? That's if you
started the job now.
But let's suppose you started the job 10 years ago in July. All right? You could still say by next July, I will have been working here for how many years? 10 plus 1 for 11 years. By next July, I will have been working here for 11 years. So we're kind of thinking about the future and saying what will have been continuing at that point in the future, okay? You will understand more as we look at more examples and we work through it, okay? Now, what's the difference, though, between saying a sentence in the future perfect continuous tense, which is what we're learning here, and the future perfect tense, which you might have learned just before this? Well, let's look. This one, of course, says by next July I will have been working here, will have been working. That's future perfect continuous. I will have been working here for 1 year. But in future perfect, we would have said by next July I will have worked here for 1 year. So, what's the difference? Is there a difference? They're similar, but there is a difference, okay? When I say by next July I will have worked here for 1 year, it's just kind of a fact. It's just the way it is. But when I say by next July I will have been working here for 1 year, the stress, the emphasis is on how long that is, how, the duration of it, and that it's kind of like it continues. The stress is on the continuation of it, and not just that it will have happened. Okay? So that's a little bit of the difference. But again, we'll understand more as we go along. Basically, how do we construct this tense? Pretty simple. We just take the subject, I, you, he, she, or it. Then we have to add these 3 helping verbs will have been, and then we take the verb, work, plus I and G. Now, you wouldn't just say, I will have been working. It's part of a full sentence, okay? By next July. By midnight. Let's suppose you started working at 6 o'clock in the morning, and now at 6 o'clock in the evening. How many hours have you worked? 12. But let's suppose you are supposed to work till midnight. So you could say at 6 o'clock in the evening, by midnight, I will have been working for 18 hours. Well, I'm going to be exhausted. So in that case, you can understand why the person is using that because they want to show that it really lasts for a long time and it continues for a long time. Okay? That's the basics of this tense. Now, let's look at when we can and cannot use this tense. So we can use the future perfect continuous to talk about how long something will have been going on at a specific time in the future. That's one way. What do I mean?
Let's look at an example.
Next November, right? That's a specific time in the future. Next November, we will have been living in this house for 15 years. So, let's suppose somebody asks you how long have you been living here? And you say, you know what? By next November, we will have been living here for 15 years. And we still love it here. We love this house. We love this area. We love this neighborhood. We're very happy. Okay? So, where's the future perfect continuous here? We'll have been living. All right? But at a specific time in the future, it will be that way. Okay? Now we can also use it before another action in the future. For example, by the time the guests arrive, this is the action. Here, by the time the guests arrive, this is an action in the future. I will have been cooking all day. So, I will be exhausted. What does it mean to be exhausted? Very tired. All right? So, this is a specific action in the future. By that time, when the guests arrive, what?
I.
And here we have our future perfect. Will have been cooking, right? I will have been cooking and cooking and cooking. The continuity is emphasized by using this tense. How long something happens is emphasized. Okay? By using this tense. All right? Next, we also use this tense with certain common expressions. All right? For example, because. Why do we need these expressions? Because we have to put it into some kind of context, right? So we'd probably say something like this. By this Saturday, by next month, by next week, right? Or, without the word by, you could just say this week. Or next summer, next winter. Okay? It's a time in the future. Or you could say a year, by 2025. And very often you will see the word for, right? So you saw it here for 15 years because you're trying to say how long something will have been going on. Okay? So 4 plus the period of time. 4 or 5 years, 5 for 5 months, 4 or 5 winters. Okay? Anything. You could say anything with for as long as it's a period of time. All right? And when can we not use this tense? Like all continuous tenses in English, including this one, we cannot use it with many stative verbs. Okay? We cannot use it with many stative verbs. So, what are stative verbs? Remember, there are 2 basic kinds of verbs in English: the dynamic or action verbs and the stative verbs. And action verbs are like run, work, play, okay? And stative verbs describe some kind of state or condition. It could be mental, it could be emotional, or it could be something else. Okay? If you check any grammar book, you will see a long list of stative verbs. For example, some mental stative verbs which we cannot use with this tense: know, believe, realize. Some emotional kind of verbs: love, hate, prefer, or some verbs that talk about some kind of ownership. Okay? Something you possess. Or possession, own, belong. All right? And there are many more, and some are sometimes allowed and sometimes not allowed. So you have to pay attention to that. But in general, a good rule to remember is that many stative verbs cannot be used with this continuous tense or with any continuous tense. Now, let's look at how we form the future perfect continuous tense. Let's start with the positive sentence first. Then we'll look at the negative sentence and the question. So for positive sentence, your basic structure is like this. You take the subject plus will have been plus. A verb plus ing. Let's look at an example. So these are the subjects and the subject could be any other word as well. I, you, they, he, she, it. Okay? So what would we say? I will have been flying. So let's take an example. Let's say I'm flying to Tokyo and I'm thinking ahead and say by the time I arrive in Tokyo, I will have been flying for 12 hours. Okay? Or you will have been flying. Say it after me just so that you get used to this. We will have been flying. They will have been flying. He will have been flying. She will have been flying. And it will have been flying. Maybe the drone. I don't know. Okay? Something. All right. Now for a negative sentence, it's very easy. We're just adding the word not. Okay? I will not have been flying for 12 hours actually. You know what? I will have been flying for 14 hours. Okay? So for the negative, you're just adding will not have been flying. That's easy. And again, it's the same. It doesn't matter what the subject is. Okay? The pilot will have been flying. Could be anything. Next, to form a question, basically we're going to start with the will, and then the subject, and then the rest of it. For example, will I have been flying for will I really have been flying for 12 hours? I'm asking myself. Or, will you have been flying? Will we have been flying? Will they have been flying? And again, it's part of an entire context, right? Will he have been flying? Will she have been flying for that long? Okay? And so on. And very often the most common question word that we might see before this will is this one. How long will? Okay? Because now it's not capitalized. How long will you have been flying by the time you reach Tokyo? 14 hours? Well, okay. So this is basically how we form this tense. Now, let's look at how we use contractions with this tense and also how we pronounce them. So we use contractions, usually in informal conversation and in informal writing, like in an email, an informal email. But if it's formal business writing, or if it's academic writing, then we do not use contractions. So let's look at some examples. Let's take a positive sentence first. Let's say by next year, I will have been playing the piano for 10 years. Okay? So we can shorten a part of this instead of saying I will. We can say I'll have been playing. You say you will have been playing. Will have been playing. They'll have been playing. He'll have been playing. She'll have been playing. And the last one, it'll have been playing. Now, you may or may not feel comfortable saying the last one. You can always say it separately, no problem. Okay? Next, what if it's negative? Next year, I will not have been playing the piano for 10 years. I will actually have been playing the piano for 15 years. Okay? So now, how do we shorten or contract? I will not. It's a little unusual. We just say I won't. Say it after me. I won't. I won't have been playing. You won't have been playing. We won't have been playing. They won't have been playing. He won't have been playing. She won't have been playing. And it won't have been playing. Okay? The reason we're repeating that phrase again and again is for many reasons. One is to practice your pronunciation. Second is to practice the grammar and just keep looking at it and saying it. And that will help you to remember how this tense works. Now, let's look at some of the spelling changes we have to make to the base form of the verb when we add I and G. So, for most verbs, all you have to do is add I and G. For example, speak becomes speaking. All we did was add I and G, listen, listening. Okay? That's what you do for the majority of verbs. But there are always some exceptions. Here are a few. For verbs ending in E, then we have to drop the E. And of course, in all cases, we're adding ing. So, let's take this word, operate. So, it ends with an E. So, what do? We cancel or drop that E. And we add ing. So, operate becomes operating. Arrange becomes arranging. Okay? That's one change. Here's another situation. 4 verbs ending in ie. There we have to drop the ie, add y, and then of course add ing.
Let's look at an example. Dia.
So we're going to cancel this ie, add y, and then ing. So, tie becomes tying, lie becomes lying. Okay?
Good.
And here's another situation. Very often, but not always. 4 verbs ending in c, v, c. We have to double the last letter. What is c, v, c? If you've been watching our videos and the different tenses, you will know by now that this is consonant-vowel consonant. A vowel in English is a, e, I, o, or u, and the consonants are all the other letters. So if you look at a verb, right? Let's take this verb and, to make it easier, look at it from the end. Okay? So the last letter is a consonant, the P. The next letter is an O, so it's a vowel. The next letter is an H. So it's a consonant. So we have this pattern, right?
Oi. So.
So then what we do is we usually double the last letter. For example, to shop becomes shopping. Run becomes running. Now, this doesn't apply in all verbs that end like this, but it does apply to lots of them. So remember some of these spelling changes when you're using this tense. Now, let's practice this tense together. So, I've written some positive sentences, some negative ones, and one question. Let's try them together. Number 1, by the time we reach Niagara Falls, we blank, drive for 8 hours. So, how can you change that into the future perfect? Continuous tense? By the time we reach Niagara Falls, we will have been driving for 8 hours. We will have been driving for 8 hours. Okay?
Good.
Number 2, when he retires next year, he blank, teach for 25 years. Another positive sentence. Affirmative sentence. What will it be? When he retires next year, he will have been teaching. Right? Okay. Here we just added ing. Here with the verb drive. What do? We cancel the e and added the ing. Okay, so pay attention to those. Spelling changes as well. Number 3, next month, you blank, write this book for 2 years. Then we have a negative sentence, you blank, not research. Any other subject. So, let's take a step by step. Next month, you blank, write this book for 2 years. What would we say? You will have been writing. Okay? Again, we're canceling the e and adding ing. Okay? You could say you will have been writing. Or you could say you will, right? Instead of you you could have contracted it and said you will have been writing. Okay? That would work too. You will have been writing this book for 2 years. Now we want the negative. You blank, not research. Any other subject. So, let's use the contraction. For the negative here, what would it be? You won't have been researching any other subject. So, let's read this sentence again. Next month, you will have been writing this book for 2 years. You won't have been researching any other subject. Okay? Very good. Let's do number 4. Next week, she blank, not eat meat for 1 year. How do we change that? Make it negative. Remember, she will not have been eating. Okay? Meat for 1 year.
Good for you.
If you got all that, next week she will not have been eating meat for 1 year. Okay?
Great.
Number 5. By 1 p.m., first we're just going to read a sentence. Okay? Then we're going to try to make a question from
It.
By 1 p.m., the athletes will have been running for 4 hours. Will have been running is the 10th step we're talking about, or future perfect continuous. Okay? How do we make that into a question? How long? Let's start with how long. Will they, meaning the athletes, have been running? Okay? So, let's read it again. By 1 p.m., the athletes will have been running for 4 hours. So, if we want to ask a question, how long will they have been running? Okay? Good for you. You did a great job. This is a challenging 10th and you got it. Now, let's look at some common mistakes that are made with this 10th and let's correct them together. So the first one is that, as I mentioned, we cannot use stated verbs with the continuous tenses or with this tense, but sometimes people forget that and they might say something like this. By next year, we will have been knowing their family for 30 years.
So, why is that a mistake?
Because know is a stated verb, which you should not, and cannot use in that continuous form. So this sentence would have to be what? By next year, we will have known their family for 30 years. We will have known, okay? And not we will have been knowing. So here we need it, the future perfect by itself. Okay, sometimes there's a mistake because we have to use this tense in a context, right? We have to use the context of some at some time, in the future or before some action in the future. But sometimes people forget to mention that, and then the tense doesn't make sense by itself. The only time it makes sense by itself is if someone has asked a question and then all you are doing is answering. Okay? So, if you are answering and you said, I will have been studying here for 3 years because somebody asks you how long will you have been studying here by the time you graduate, then it would be okay to say, I will have been studying here for 3 years. But if somebody has not asked you a question and you're not giving an answer, and by itself you just say with no time given, I will have been studying here for 3 years. It doesn't mean anything. It sort of doesn't make sense. So, you want to give it some context. So, maybe you'll say by next summer, by November, by the end of this year, I will have been studying here for 3 years. Then it would be okay. So, let's add something here and we'll say by November. Okay? By November, I will have been studying here for 3 years. So we need that context of time. We also could have context in terms of an action that will happen in the future, right? So let's look at this sentence. We will have been traveling for 12 hours. Again, no context unless someone asked you a question, which in this case, they didn't. So let's give it some context of another action. So we could say by the time we reach Miami or Dallas or New York or anywhere we will have been traveling for 12 hours. Okay? Now it has the reference point of another action. And now it's fine. It's absolutely fine. And just in case you're wondering, the word traveling can be spelled in 2 ways. This is more the North American or American spelling, and the British spelling usually has a double L. Okay? So let's go to the next one, which is in fact spelling. Spelling mistakes are common, so be careful. Let's look here and see if you can find the spelling mistakes. This year they will have been guiding tours for 10 years. Can you find one spelling mistake there? This year they will have been guiding. So the mistake is here.
Why?
Because this verb is guide, right? By itself. But when we add ing, what do we need to do?
Cancel that.
So it would be guiding tours for 10 years. Let's look at another sentence. Next month, he won't have been smoking for 20 years. This sentence has 2 mistakes. Can you find them? 2 spelling mistakes. Next month, he won't have been smoking for 20 years. So one mistake is here. This apostrophe is missing. Now it's correct. And have been smoking. Again, smoke is a verb, which ends with E, so we need to cancel that E to write smoking. Okay? So these are some of the common mistakes. Be careful of them, of the state of verbs, the spelling, and make sure you give your sentences some kind of context of time and or of another action. So to review, let's look at 3 last examples of this future perfect continuous tense. The first one is a positive example. When Sue finishes university, she will have been living abroad for 6 years.
Right?
Here's our tense. Will have been living. Okay? Very nice. Let's look at a negative example. By next week, Sam won't have been working for a year. Where's the tense? Sam won't have been working. All right? And the last one. When he retires, how long will Jack have been managing this department? Where's the tense? Here. Will have been managing. All right? So this is basically what you need to understand for this tense, right? When to use it, how to use it using the positive sentence, the negative sentence, the question. And this is an advanced tense, so it will be very helpful. It's great that you've learned it. And as you read and as you listen to the news, you'll start to now hear this tense being used, okay? And you'll feel really good because you understand exactly what they're trying to say. All right? So give yourself a lot of credit for having come this far, for reaching this high level in terms of your English tenses and in terms of your English. All right? Now, after this, you can, whenever you're ready, you can go on to watch the next class in our series. And last of all, if you'd like to do a little more practice on this particular tense, then just go to Invit and you can do a quiz on this. All right? Congratulations again, and all the very best with your English. Well, we've reached the end of our series on English verb tenses, and you have made it all the way through. And all I can say is wow. Congratulations. It's amazing that you made a plan to achieve something, and you went forward steadily to achieve your goal. You should feel really proud of yourself, and I am very proud of you. I already know so much about you because you are at this point in the course. I know that you are a serious person, you are a determined person, and you're a motivated person, and you're someone who knows how to achieve success.
And you proved that
by going through the program, doing the work that was necessary, doing the exercises, investing your time, and by doing that, you will have already probably seen the results, and you will continue to see the results throughout your life. Perhaps people have already told you that they notice that you're speaking better, you're writing better, and I hope you notice that in yourself because it really is a very worthy achievement. Okay? So now let's have a little more fun just to review the 12 tenses that we have learned. Let's look at the board. So you remember these? These were the basic tenses, right? So what I'm going to do now is you're going to help me to match these sentences with these tenses. So we'll read the tenses and then we'll look at the sentences and we'll match them up. So you remember what they are, right? You remember the pairs? Present simple, present continuous, past simple, past continuous, future simple, future continuous. Okay? So remember we had our continuous on that side, or simple on this side. Now, let's go through the exercises. Number 1, I am cooking. Number 2, I cooked. Number 3, I cook. Number 4, I was cooking. Number 5, I will cook. Number 6, I will be cooking. So first, let's do it the easy way. Which ones are continuous tenses? Okay? You can tell me in 1 second by looking at them, right? You know by now. They're all the ones here. Cooking, 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 right? These are the three that we know. These are continuous. Okay? Now are they present continuous, past, continuous, future continuous? Let's read them. I am cooking. I was cooking. I will be cooking. So, which one is present continuous? This happens to be the first one. Okay? Present continuous. I was cooking. What's that one? Past continuous.
Right.
You've got it. And what's the last one? I will be cooking. What's that? Our future continuous. Okay?
Good.
Let's look at the other three. I cooked. I cook. I will cook. All right? Which one is in the present? Yes. This one. Okay? Present. Simple. Which one is past? Past simple.
Yes.
This one. I cooked. And then the last one is simple. And this is future simple. All right? So you already know. Lots of strategies because you've worked through the program and now you can identify which sentences are which tenses and you can match them up. These were with the basic tenses. Let's do a quick review with the advanced tenses. So here we have our perfect tenses. We have present perfect, past perfect, and future perfect. We also have present perfect continuous, past perfect continuous, and future perfect continuous. These are all your friends now. I know that. Good for you. So let's try to match up the sentences with the tenses. So the easiest way to do it is first, is it a continuous action or not? Let's look for the continuous actions first. So which are the continuous actions here from 1 to 6? Okay? It's easy, right? To find the word. And what would it be? It would be 1 here. And where's the next one? Here. And the third one? Here. Okay?
Good.
So we've already identified which were the continuous tenses, because that's really easy. Now, let's look at what they are. First, we have here I will have been cooking, or I have been cooking, or I had been cooking. Which one is the present perfect continuous? Okay? What number? Number 3. Okay? So that's over here. Number 3. Which one is the past perfect continuous? Is it number 2 or number 5? It's number 5. Very good. Okay? And, of course, number 2 then is the future perfect continuous. All right? Excellent. So we finished those 3 continuous ones. Now, let's look at the perfect tenses. I had cooked. I will have cooked and I have cooked.
Right?
Which one is present perfect? Is it number 1, number 4, or number 6? It is number 6.
Yes.
Okay? Very good. Which one is past perfect? Number 1 or number 4? It's number 1 because that is I had cooked. And the last one, number 4, is future perfect because it says I will have cooked. All right? Good for you. Now you can also identify and play these kind of games. All right? So now that shows that you have learned the advanced tenses and you even know how to match them up. Good for you. So you've reached the end of the series. What do you do now? Well, here are some ideas for you. First of all, enjoy. Enjoy the fact that you have gained so much more knowledge now, which will help you in so many different ways. When you're communicating or working with English, you can now use this knowledge when you're developing your receptive skills and your productive skills. Receptive skills in English are when you receive the language through reading and listening, and productive skills are when you produce the language through speaking and writing. So now that you understand all the nuances of these different tenses, I'm sure that when you read something, reading a book and article, the newspaper, anything, you're going to understand things in a much deeper way, in a much richer way. Okay? The same when you're listening to something, when you're listening to the news or listening to a song, listening to a show, a movie, an interview, you will see so many other shades of meaning that you didn't realize were there before. Okay? Next, it will also help you in your productive skills when you're producing the language. Pay attention when you're speaking, and I'm sure as I said that other people may also be paying attention and realizing that you are expressing yourself in a much more articulate way. All right? So continue to do that, and when you're writing, don't be shy, don't worry about your English. Now you have the ability to go forward and write not just an email or something simple. You can think in English and you can start to express your ideas and opinions about different things happening in the world. So go forward confidently to do that in your personal life or even in your professional life. All right? Next, if you've enjoyed this program and you feel that it has benefited you, then please do share
it.
Share it with your friends, your colleagues, your family members. Share it on social media. I would really appreciate if you can do that, and that way other people that you know can also benefit from improving their English. And it will help you if, let's say, another friend of yours or some friends of yours or family members have done the same program, and then you can kind of help each other out or correct each other if you're making any mistakes, or you can compliment each other when you're using certain more advanced tenses. Okay?
Great.
And of course, keep learning. There are so many things that you can learn in English. You've been through the program on English tenses, but I have, for example, hundreds of other videos on all aspects of English. For example, grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, business English, academic English, exam English for the IELTS, the TOEFL, and so on. So continue to find what are the gaps in your English and try to fill them. You can keep learning and improving your English. You've already shown that you're a person who knows how to produce results. So all I have to say to you is congratulations. Thank you very much for giving me the honor of helping you to improve your English, and I hope in this way to also improve your life. Thank you very much, and thanks so much for watching.